Hey, good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. It's been a great day here. Busy, busy, busy because I am playing catch up, right? I've been away so much that all of a sudden today it was just jumping back in. So I've been super busy and I have not been on Facebook as much as I usually am today. I had a meeting this morning and I actually, unfortunately, had a funeral to go to this afternoon for the sister of a very good friend and fellow coach. I have to support those around me. And then of course, kids and everything else. So I have not been on Facebook nearly as much. So I apologize for that. If you were missing out on some of my inspirational stuff, I will be back, with all the stuff that I normally post every day. My plan is to be back as normal tomorrow and, back in the swing of things. But tonight I wanted to actually talk to you about something that is really, something that's been on my mind. And actually it was I had a meeting with a friend this morning and we were talking and part of the conversation really sparked this idea in my head. It's about the power of words. And I talk about this a lot anyway, but how the words that we use can make or break somebody or can make or break ourselves. The power of the words that we use with ourselves, how we can make or break ourselves, right? And that's so, so important. A lot of what I work with on myself, with my clients, people come to me in the start for weight loss. Many people come to me in the start for weight loss, but really getting healthy is about so much more than that number on the scale. It's about so much more than the size of your clothing. It's about so much more than all the other pieces, right? And then the physical piece, it's really the biggest number one part of it is the mental piece. And, if we're not telling ourselves the right things and if our words are not following what our intentions are, it makes things much harder and it actually it sabotages us and it almost makes it impossible for us. And the power of our words changes everything. And I have this conversation. Any of my coaches that I work with and a lot of the clients that I work with will tell you, I will call people out when they start using words that about themselves that aren't positive. Right? We should always be speaking positively about ourselves. And even if we're having a rough time, we can still put a positive spin to it and not to wear rose-colored glasses. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like creating something that's not there or not being honest. But there's always a positive and a positive way to find things. Hey, Penny. And a positive way to view something. And that power of words, the words that we choose, it really can change somebody's life. I can tell you, when I was a kid, I had a very good friend, probably one of the closest friends, probably one of my closest friends as a kid. And teenage girls say nasty things, right? Happens. It's the reality. And some nasty things were said. And I can tell you, those things that were said still haunt me in the back of my head. And I am now 42 years old, and I was probably 11 at the time, right? So for 31 years at least, those things have haunted me in my head. We've gotten past that, right? She apologized to me. Like, that's long gone, right? Long gone. And, but it's still the words that you hear, the things that are said are so powerful and they stick there. And somewhere in our heads, we find that truth. We lock onto that, right? When somebody said something negative, even if you've moved past it, those words still echo in your head as maybe is that true? Maybe that is really who I am or what I am. And it's really powerful. But when we use positive words to people, right, we can do the same thing, but in a good way, right? When we're constantly giving people positive words and not sugarcoating things for people, not lying to people, right? People need constructive criticism in a nice way. But when we're choosing to find a positive way to talk to someone, we can build them up, right? And those words remain with them. This is something really that I think about a lot when I'm talking to my children, especially, right? What do I want them to carry on and how do I want them to build their self-esteem, right? Not that if they're doing something wrong, do I not correct that, but there's a way to say things to people and a way to present things to people. And, my health journey, you guys hear a lot about the 75 pounds I've lost that I lost 3 years ago. But my health journey has started long before that. I struggled with weight starting as a teen and on my way up. And before I did this amazing program and totally changed my life, I had done other things, right? I've done every program under the sun. You name it, I've done it. I've tried it. And even the power of words, this is sort of the power of words. My daughter, I remember it was not long after Elliot was born. So she was maybe 4.5, because he was there. She was 4 or almost turning 4 when he was born. So she was, but she was probably 4.5, right? And she looked at me, and out of the, kids call it like it is, right? Kids say things like it is. And I remember her saying to me, "Mommy, why are you so fat?" Right? And I was. There's no question I was fat, right? And, and Elliot was probably maybe around a year old. So, I said to her, at the time, I said, well, I've had 3 kids very close together. Your brother's still a baby, and here I was justifying to her. But in the back of my head, that's what I was hearing, right? "Mommy, why are you so fat?" And at that point, it was, she was looking around at her friends' moms who also had kids, and they weren't necessarily heavy, right? They had lost the baby weight. And for me, it wasn't about losing the baby weight. I had always struggled with this. I had always had this. But when it was my child, when somebody that I was close to was saying this, it hit hard, and it had a place in my, it hit here, and it was ego, right? Totally, totally ego. I mean, I know that. And that was when I really said, wow, I got to do something. I got to change something, because I didn't want my kids, and especially my eldest, who has a very rare blood disorder, I didn't want her to follow in the footsteps that I had all my life, right? I already know she's going to struggle with she could potentially, God willing she won't, but she could potentially struggle with her health. And I didn't want her to add on to that the weight issue. And in my head, it was a kick to my ego and a kick to my gut of, okay, maybe I really am heavier than I thought whatever. I don't even know what was going through my head at the time. But also a part of it is I wanted my kids to be healthy. And I knew I needed to be healthy. I needed them to follow in my footsteps. And the only way they were going to follow in my footsteps in a positive way is if I made a change to my life. If I started doing things differently so that I could give them a positive role model to follow. Because otherwise, the words that I would be saying, without using words necessarily, if I didn't take my health into my own hands, if I didn't correct those things, then I would be saying to them that it's okay to make really bad, unhealthy choices, right? And, whether I lost weight or didn't lose weight, that wasn't what it was about when I started. It was really, and it still, it never was it really about weight loss. Yes, I knew I needed to lose the weight. When you're walking around, at that time I was 100 pounds overweight. When you're walking around 100 pounds overweight, you got to lose the weight. It's not healthy, right? It's hard on your heart. It's hard on your organs. Thank God my blood pressure was still normal and I was not pre-diabetic, but I was headed that way, right? And that wasn't the message that I wanted to send to my kids. That wasn't the message that I wanted to say to them was okay, right? And that eating the way I ate wasn't okay. I mean, I remember so vividly during the same time being at the grocery store and pushing the cart through, going through and having all kinds of junk in my cart and not much healthy stuff in my cart. And I ran into somebody one night when I had a bunch of junk, and, I could see the person sort of looked in the cart and looked at me because here I was 100 pounds overweight, right? And in my head, I'm sort of justifying, well, I have 3 kids at home. Of course they're going to eat junk, but my kids didn't eat that junk, right? They ate a little bit, but it was really mostly me. And, it sort of, her words really spurred me on. She wasn't saying it to be negative. She was 4, right? She wasn't saying it as a dig to me, where an adult might say something like that, and it's definitely a dig. But those words, I took those words and said, now this is the time that I got to do something, right? I got to make a change in my life. I got to step it up. And that was when I really started my process of becoming healthy. And when I made that step up change, that was always the words that I used to my kids. The word diet is not used in my house unless I'm talking like this, right? It is not used in my house. It was always about being healthy. It was always about doing things to improve my health and that making choices, so that we can all be healthy together. And those words, using those words is so important because that's really where my mind went, right? In the beginning when I started and I had 100 pounds to lose, yes, it was a diet, right? I mean, that's the truth. It was about weight loss for me. But those weren't the words that I used because I had to, by changing my verbiage, by changing what I said out loud, also allowed me to change that shift up here. It allowed me to go from what was a diet mindset when I first started to really, truly building that it's all about health, right? When I said it enough times over and over and over again, that's what it became about, right? It's sort of, I talked several, weeks ago about the idea of fake it till you make it. And that's that concept, right? I knew that it was about health, But really, when I started, it was about diet. But when I talked about it enough and started living it enough about making a change to my health and about it being healthy, living healthy, that's what it became. That's what it became. And that's where that mindset shift totally shifted. But the power of our words, the power of the words that we say to ourselves, right? Just like that. I started talking about to myself, telling myself, I need to get healthy. I'm doing this to get healthy. I said it over and over and over again, and that became my reality, right? But whatever words we choose to use with our loved ones, with the person down the street, with ourselves, those are the words that become the reality. And those are the words that really, really can change lives. I was talking to my friend this morning when we were meeting, and she was actually telling me a story of one of her clients who, was somebody who had tried out as a kid and to be a model. And this person that she was talking about is gorgeous. I mean, like, she definitely is model quality, right? She said when she was a kid, she had gone to one of these modeling, tryout things, right? And they turned her down, right? And she was devastated. That she was about 8 years old. That has totally ruined everything from then, because that just crushed her self-esteem. And what my friend told her, she said, you weren't turned down because of that. A lot of these modeling agencies, she had gone in with her aunt, right? And they are looking for people who are going to pay to sign up for their classes, right? They might offer them something so that they're going to pay and enroll them into this kind of school. Well, they analyzed it and knew that she was never going to sign up for their classes. They were never going to make any money off of her. It was a business, right? And so instead of saying that, they turned her down. They didn't accept her. And as an 8-year-old, that totally crushed her. And from then on out, her self-esteem was destroyed over this, right? And that was power of words that wasn't necessary, right? And they didn't, whoever said it to her, they didn't know that they were crushing this poor child, who is now a young woman, right? Destroying her self-esteem. But we never know what words we say to somebody, how it's going to affect them in the long run, what it's going to do, how it's, if we're using words to build them up, then we're only going to have good that's going to possibly come from it, right? But if we're not using words that are building someone up, right, we don't know what that's going to do to them the next day. We don't know what's been going on in their heads, right? That those words could just be sort of right, that final, twist of the knife in the back, right? We don't know. And I know for a fact, I don't ever want to be the person that is the one that could even possibly be the twist of the knife, right? And that's something that I'm really conscious of, and I really try to teach my kids, that everything that comes out of our mouths when we're talking to people should be positive. And even if we're frustrated, right? Even if we're calling somebody out on something, there's a positive way to do that. And it's so important to think about those words that we're using. And it's so important to think about the words that we're using with ourselves, right? How are we talking about ourselves? When we're struggling with something, are we knocking ourselves down and criticizing ourselves and insulting ourselves? Or are we saying, okay, I'm struggling with this. This is hard for me right now, but I'm going to get through this. Are we, raising ourselves up? Are we, doing the best that we can do, right? That's what we've got to do. And so many of us get into this negative mind frame because we start comparing ourselves to everybody else around us, right? We have this, crazy comparative reality, but we can't compare ourselves to anybody else out there. I know there is not a single other Lesley Weiss Zwick around, right? I'm the only one. So how can I compare myself to the next person, right? My journey is going to be different than your journey, which is going to be different than your best friend's journey. That's going to be different. That's going to be different. That's going to be different. Even if we all start something on the same day, we're all starting from different places. And I heard the best analogy of this over the weekend when we were talking. And people were really talking about comparative reality, right? And somebody getting to something that they want to do faster, right? Well, picture this, everybody has a ramp that they have to go down to get to that goal, right? If we have the same goal, exact same goal, we all have to walk down a ramp to get to that goal, right? But that doesn't mean that our life experiences have put us in the same starting spot in that ramp, right? I may start here and you may start here, right? Well, you're going to get to that goal before I'm going to get to that goal. Not because you're any better than me, but you've had other life experiences that have gotten you there faster, right? And then there might be somebody else who's starting on the ramp spot way behind me, right? It doesn't make me better than them. It just means we've had different life experiences that have gotten us to different places and different starting points. It doesn't mean that we're not going to all reach that. So we don't all have the ability or the potential to reach that goal. So when we have to remember that when we start talking, about ourselves and to ourselves, don't compare yourself to other people, right? If you're doing your best, do your best, right? And praise yourself for it. And and build yourself up and let other people build you up. And if somebody is around you that's not building you up, walk away. Those are not people that you need. But one of the things that you have to remember when somebody is talking to you in a way that's not right, that isn't what you deserve, you need to say, that's on them, right? That is on them. I did see what you posted, Sherry. Absolutely. And it's funny because I had already decided that I was going to go live about this tonight. And then I saw what you posted. But it's on them. If somebody says something, and I say this to my kids all the time, right? My daughter will come to me and she'll be all upset that one of the other two did, said whatever. And I said, or reacted a certain way. And I'll say, that's on them, right? You have a choice as to how you're going to respond and what you're going to do. You have a choice of your reactions and your words. They have a choice on their reactions and their words. And you can't control it, right? Right? Somebody can do something to me. Somebody can say something really nasty, and I have a choice to respond in a nice way, or I have a choice to rail into them. And if I choose to rail into them, right, that's on me, right? Just like their choice to not be nice is on them. It's all about them, right? And when we can look at it that way, and when we can think about it that way, when somebody comes off and doesn't treat us the way we deserve to be treated, it makes it easier to say, this isn't about me, right? This is about them and where they are in their lives, and hopefully they can find peace and find happiness. And when we look at the world that way, wow, is it life-changing? And sometimes we can even say, how can I help them, right? What can I do? Tonight, my daughter she was having a rough time. We were away for almost a week, which she doesn't do well with that anyway. And coming back, she's exhausted, and she had a long day at camp, and she was having a rough afternoon, a rough evening. And she was sitting on the floor like, I don't know, she wasn't quite in tears, but she was headed that way. And I walked over to her, and right, I could have said any number of things, but I walked over to her and I sort of started chuckling, and I said, I get it. And she said, what? And I said, I know what's going on here. I said, you missed us so much. You're doing this just so I'll come over and give you a hug. And she didn't even know what to say to me, right? I could have said any number of things because she was sort of going off the handle on things that could have sent me over the edge and sent me to get frustrated with her. But instead of getting frustrated, I stopped and took a step back. And I said, I know that this behavior, what's going on, was not about me. It's about she's tired. It's about, it might have been a little bit about me, that they missed us, right? It's about all the other things that have gone on. And so instead of choosing to respond in a negative way, which I could have, I turned it on her and it flipped it. And that changed how she responded, right? It changed how everybody responded. But those power of the words that you choose in any situation are huge, so huge. And there are certain words that, and I've talked about this before, that I've eliminated, or I work very hard to eliminate from my vocabulary. And that number one word that I've done that with is the word try, right? And anybody who talks to me on any regular basis, when they say to me, oh, I will try to do something. No, you're not going to try to do something, right? And that's one that I really want you to think about and focus on. There is no such thing as trying to do something, right? Either you're doing it or you're not doing it, right? I'm going to give you an example here. Yes, Sherry, I love that you choose to share the joy and negate the unpleasant. You and I are on that same path, right? Here are my AirPods, right? That usually I'm on the phone in, right? I can say I'm going to try to open them up. Well, what does that even mean? Either I'm going to open them, or I'm not going to open them, right? Yes, what people think of me is none of my business, from Rachel Hollis. I love that. I've actually heard that before she was popular. I don't know if that's where the people that I've heard it from got it from, or whether she got it from somebody else. I don't know, but it's a great quote, right? But right, either I will open them, or I will not open them. But there's no such thing as try, right? If I say I'm going to try them, what does that even mean? That doesn't make any sense, right? They're sitting on the table in front of me now. Either I'm going to lift them up, try to pick them up. What? Either I'm going to pick them up or I'm not going to pick them up, right? So that idea of try, that's one of the most powerful weird words. I mean, what does that even mean? And when we start choosing the words that we're going to say, and I pinpoint out on try because so many of us, and she could be requoted, that's totally very possible. So many of us, right? We say, I'm going to try to do X, Y, and Z to change our lives. I'm going to try to whatever. What? Either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it, right? Either you're going to make those changes in your life or you're not going to make those changes in your life. But all of the words that we pick are so powerful. Whether we're talking, like I said, whether we're talking for ourselves, try is accounting for the possible failure. Yes, exactly. Actually, what I often say is try is accepting is trying it to try is to accept credit for something that you never intend to do, right? If you say I'm going to try to go to if my kids ask me to go pick something up at the store, well, I'll try. No, either I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it, right? So if I say I'll try, then when they come home and say, well, I tried, right? It just didn't make it there. And when I say I'll try, I have no intention of doing it, right? I have no intention. So I change those words. When my kids ask me, hey, Mom, can you go and get something at the store? And instead of saying I'll try, I will open up my calendar and look at my calendar and I'll say, okay, I've got a time slot in right here. If another call doesn't come in or if something doesn't come in, then this is the time that I'm going to go. But I'm not going to make a promise to it. Or sometimes I'll say, you know what? I've got a time slot right here. I'm going to stick it in my calendar right here so that I can make sure that I go so that because that's important to you, right? Either I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. But if I'm going to say I'm going to try, I'm going to admit to them it may not happen. It probably won't happen today, right? I will often say to them, you know what? It's probably not going to happen today. I don't have enough time in my calendar. Can you show me where, and I'll show my calendar. I'll say, can you show me where I can fit this in today? Right? But I'll never say I try to them, and they know that. And I'll call them out if I say, will you clean your room? Well, I'll try. No, either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. Right? But that's really powerful in our own heads, that word try, right? When you're making a commitment to yourself, right? Are you going? When I ask a client, are you going to stick? What's going to happen today? Are you going to stick to your plan? Yes, you can absolutely share this in your group, Sherry. Absolutely, you can share anything I ever do. When you say to yourself, when I talk to a client and I'll talk to them in the morning and say, okay, what's your plan for today? Are you going to stick to your plan? Well, I'll try. What? Either you're going to stick to your plan or you're not going to stick to your plan, right? Somebody's not going to come and shove the food that you're not supposed to be having down your mouth, down your throat, right? It's either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. You're going to make a decision and you're going to do it. So try is one of those words that is so weirdly powerful, because when you remove that, you got to follow through. You're going to follow through with what you say. Right? And so if I'm going to tell you to eliminate any word, there are others that I would tell you to eliminate, but try is the first one. To really think about it when you're using those words and you're choosing your words to really hear yourself, because I hear it all the time, right? Every single day when I'm talking to clients, when I'm talking to other coaches that I work with, and they'll say, I'm going to try it. No, either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. And if you're going to say you're not going to do it, that's okay. That's so okay to say you're not going to do something, right? It doesn't always have to be that you're going to do it. But accept it. Accept that. Take credit for that and say, I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it, right? And you'll see how much your life shifts, how much your life changes when you start paying attention to the words that you're using, right? So I'm going to sign off now. It's almost 11 o'clock and I want to go to bed because I'm exhausted. But I hope you have a wonderful night. I did post another recipe tonight. It's a yummy one. It is the spinach and mushroom and feta crustless quiche. It is really good. And for those of you who are going to be observing the 9 days and not eating meat for 9 days starting on Friday, that's a good one. That's a great recipe. I'm going to be posting some more meatless recipes later throughout the week for people to use. They are all plan compliant. Every recipe that I post is always plan compliant. If you are on plan and you're not sure about how to use them, please feel free to reach out. And I hope to see you guys back here tomorrow night. Good night, sleep well, and have a great day. And remember tomorrow when you're picking your words to pick them very, very carefully, because words have power. Have a great night. Bye.